T-Rex into a sustainable Christmas jumper. The whole thing went viral. So I think, and that's not in my IT role, but I think CIOs have an opportunity to take that executive leadership for the organisation. We shouldn't limit ourselves to our IT roles.
Yeah, thank you, Alison, and it's lovely to have that colour of what the Natural History Museum was doing in particular. And just on a point that Carve made, which was, the sphere of influence is the influence of what you have already at your fingertips. The other thing we haven't touched on really is your teams. So as leaders, you're also responsible for the teams that you manage. And I'm interested to understand from all of your perspectives, maybe Rachel, I'll come to you first, how or if your teams are challenging you for more leadership here, or they're demanding resources, or even if it's the wider company. It'd be interesting to compare and contrast your perspectives on this.
Yeah, so maybe I'm very specific in the fact that we've got geoscientists in the majority of the teams that I work with, and they're really looking at their career and saying, where do I fit in the future? Because we're going through this energy transition. One of the big places is, do they move towards more digital skills? So still technical, but maybe not on the geoscience side. Some towards the new energies. But also leadership. And I think we've had to really think about our career development program for a large proportion of our organisation, because the direction in which Shell is going is more towards that new energy, and how to embrace that and make those people that have invested in their careers in a company feel like they have a future. And what could that look like? But yes, we're constantly getting challenged. We do have things like, we have volunteering days. Shell's pretty good at demonstrating the power in progress and our future towards net zero. And how can everybody? We've all been, as leaders, tasked with how do we enact that in our teams? How do we belong to that and do something about it rather than just talking? And there's, different people can approach it differently. But yeah, I think everybody has their own personal take on what that means, whether it's from a career, whether it's from personally at home, what can they do, their families, and I think I mentioned earlier, the geographies, what's different in India versus Canada, we have Australia, so there's different places where different things from a sustainability is going to impact them and what that personal purpose means to them. So it's complex, and I just on my small team that's, across different geographies, you're getting different feelings, and that's possibly just the pressure that they have in their home countries, or even locally. The Netherlands often get more rap just because of people and social pressures than in other countries. In the UK, we get Greenpeace now and again, but actually that's died down a little bit in the UK. So everywhere's a bit different, and I think the important thing is we are acting on it and we're doing something about it, however small. But I think we do need, to make sure we're accountable and at different levels of the organisation doing something to make a change.
Yeah, that accountability piece is really important from a leadership perspective. And I'm going to open this up then to everyone, you all up there, because we've heard about the accountability and we've heard from all of you what your spheres of influence are. Does anyone want to take the lead on what your teams are thinking, doing, saying, and how you're responding to that?
I think if I may start with Peter, teams are very important. We talked about technology. We had another roundtable as well. I said it, people are making the difference. And we can approach it from different angles. We can come up with various projects that will start here, will end up there, and we'll have results on sustainability. But is that maybe a drop in the ocean? And coming back to that greenwash approach that I think we have to eliminate. I think everyone aspires to be a more effective at driving that positive sustainable change, right? And if I make a parallel here to innovation and digital, right? Because we're looking into those aspects. I think innovation, cannot be really isolated and incubated. Yes, you drive specific solutions with the team, but I think you really get it to the next level when you get it through the organization. So having more principle based on sustainability, it will have a different effect on the team. So that basically is embedding that into the DNA of the organization. So they drive it. And sure, we're talking about, little things like, 10, 15 years ago, where think before we print, right? But I think today we have a different ballgame. And if we are pushing for digital, that digital may create, some other bad things, right, in other areas. So we have to be mindful of that as well, right? In terms of, partnership or with whom you're doing what you're doing, you may have a great cause for that. But if you are basically damaging in another area, right, then the contribution is not having the same, impact. So it is very important to get those, principles out of the organization and let the team grow and make sure that they contribute and they drive in a similar way, like innovation or data, we had the same thing. Data was very much driven by IT. At a point in time, we said everyone can master data, and the results were so different. Everyone can drive sustainability, and there are so many ways, right? Like Colin said, broad range of technologies that you can explore. Just have to be mindful, and the effect of that is amazing. Throughout the organization, those, what they call healthy communities that were established come up with ideas, and they also, they stand up and they say no to things. They really think that this is not a good cause. They said, well, we need to rethink the way that we do things.
I think there are a couple of things here for me with people. I think it's a great opportunity to enable people at all levels of the organization to show leadership. One of the things you find about sustainability is that people, I want to say care differently, and I don't mean that in a pejorative sense, but there are some people to whom it matters more than others. Everyone has different priorities. And so actually, finding the people, and that can be at a relatively junior level, who've really got a passion for this and letting them run, I think is really important. The other thing I also think is important, though, is role modeling as a leader. So I think you need to tackle it from both ends. I have to say, when I was asked to chair the sustainability board, I did kind of go, oh God, I'm a conspicuous shopper, and I have lots of Amazon deliveries, but the good thing for me was it made me think about what I do. I've just ordered a bike to cycle to work because my new job is 3 miles away, so I can do that. So I think it's about all of us challenging, but it's being prepared to empower people who've got a passion for this at all levels of the organisation to challenge up to senior level.
I like that, Alison. And it also calls into what Antoinette was saying at the beginning with your pillar, Antoinette at Proximus. So how's that pillar emboldened some of your workforce into taking the mantle of sustainable leadership into the company and into their wider lives?
Yes, of course, the green and social responsibility is becoming more and more important to all our employees, also because it's really part of our culture. And in order also to make sure that we lead by example, for us it's really important that we have centralized and we have a clear coordination of all the different activities, but also to have really clear targets. So everybody that wants to contribute knows what to do and how to contribute. For example, we set a real target to use 100% renewable energy and to become truly circular by 2030, and by 2040 also to reach net zero emission. And this ambition also makes sure that all the employees, as part of their daily job, participate in the breakdown of the roadmap that we have. And this is extremely important for them to be part of that, and also to lead the path with us. I have to say that so far I have experienced the huge engagement from the employee, but also it's really, really important that they see the path on how to contribute to it, and they see the result of it. Because otherwise, if it's something abstract, far away, far from what they do daily, then also the impact it's less evident, but also there is less participation. So to me, it's really important to make sure that they are sensibilized about that, but also that the big strategy is broken in actionable pieces where everybody can chip in and contribute and see the result of their contribution, which act also as a role model, but also as a motivation for the other to join more and to participate more.
Really critical thing. I mean, we all have these frameworks, these targets for our company as a whole. And what our teams want, I mean, to your question, Peter, they want clarity. What is it I can do to help with those big targets? So as Antoinetta said, it's looking at those big targets, trying to come up with a framework for your own organization, and then showing how your framework fits back with the company goals and how you can then set your own goals within your framework. So we did that within our group. We've got a simple 5-pillar framework model. We try to align to the top level, and then within each of the other areas, we try to set our own goals. And then people with a passion, it's been said already, but Alison said that people with a passion, they know where to direct their energy. So I think having that framework helps to give you some clarity.
But what about, so a thought I've just had is, so it sounds like, we've all got these great ideas, but has anybody out there got some good mechanisms rather than top down and framework based from the organisation down, but to go bottoms up? I mean, you mentioned all these great, less experienced people who've probably got all these fantastic ideas. Does anyone have a mechanism that they've used in their companies to submit ideas or, to challenge, or opportunities or forums where they can challenge, not just social media where, something's brought out and you can comment on it? I'm just maybe wondering if you all have, or anybody's got experience with how that's done within your organisations.
I think it's really important that the vision gets really broken down into something which is clearly understood. Then people can chip in the different view. For example, we have one pattern which is adding sustainability in the product development process, and product development process means also, do you integrate in an app something that helps you to understand how you or the customer contributes? Do you contribute with packaging of some product? Do you contribute with other initiative, like, for example, the Slow Bank that we have implemented, where we raise the awareness of the consumption and the impact that you create when you do banks transaction. So I think once you have the most important pillars, people that work in that area will naturally come up with contribution.
I think one other thing that we can do as collectively is I think most of our organizations, in the past 10 years or so, are accustomed to driving some kind of continuous improvement, eliminating waste, and I think that it could be a mechanism that we can also tie to this sustainability that can act as a bit of an abstract thing, but actually it's all about reducing waste, and that it requires the mindset in the whole organization that could relate, that says actually an element of sustainability is we actually take care of what we are kind of wasting here, whether it's in our operations, whether it's our individual lives. That could also be something we can tap into.
Perhaps if I can just go and answer that from my side, to what we've structured ourselves to be like, whether is execution of a new strategic project or operations. We've formed what we call self-governing teams, where we address all different kinds of initiatives, innovative ideas, etc., whether they are linked to actual IT and technology related matters, or, for example, sustainability matters. And that is how the sustainability agenda gets executed, not necessarily being directed by an overall corporate strategy, even though linking to it. An example will be, as I mentioned earlier, in our digital transformation journey, where we're implementing and developing these digital platforms, the teams, whether it's technicians or engineers, always come up with designs that enable us to go for like greener options, go for more cloud-based solutions. An example will be a lot of our solutions now, we're going for serverless solution, which contributes into reducing our physical footprint. And part of, again, the digital transformation really is not just to making us more sustainable from a financial perspective, but to also, we just adopted a hybrid working model, right, where you get, based on the roles that the staff play, they can work from home. That contributes, we're reducing the need for physical bricks and mortar offices. We're reducing the need to drive to work. A lot of traffic has went down, so the carbon emission reduction element comes into play. So it's really how we approaching it, and for their own personal lives. I am cognizant of the time, and I'll just share my small experience this weekend. Actually, I was traveling in my hometown, the rural village in South Africa, and we had a function at home, and we couldn't find my brother to bring his very large van to bring in large pots that we need to use to cook outside, and the tables and the chairs to set up. And I was told that there is a gentleman in the village who uses a donkey cart, right, to deliver these things. So it was quite exciting to see just that small little change plays a big role and contributes and plants the seed into the mind of others to say, it doesn't have to be an expensive exercise. It doesn't have to be an out of this world thing. You've got donkeys, or when you've got a donkey cart, you just tie them and then you start delivering the goods that people need. So just wanted to share that experience. Was quite refreshing.
It's a good reminder that common sense is free, isn't it? I'd like to stay on you, if I may, Kenewa, just for the closing minutes, and I'll come to as many of you as possible. When we think about everything we've discussed, there's obviously much we can be doing internally, but I wonder if there's more we can be doing externally. And I'm thinking now of partnerships, whether we're thinking by sector or by geography or by any other rationale. Is that something you're thinking about, Kenewa, or engaging with to extend or improve the sustainable practices you're developing internally?
Yes, definitely. We partner with a whole lot of businesses. I've got business partners in India, I've got business partners in Canada, and every time we need to discuss some of these elements that we take into consideration. And again, like I just said, I'm a rural girl. I'm very passionate about not leaving the rural communities behind. And I think that's what's lacking for me in these conversations as we have them, to say, well, it's all good, and the efforts that we are applying in resolving all these issues, but how do we bring in these rural communities? How do I, for example, use the digital solutions that we're implementing within the organization into the rural communities, because they don't have access to those, they cannot afford those. So although from a business partnership perspective, the conversations and the inclusion of multiple partners takes place, I think there's a whole lot of work that we can do to bring in and not leave our rural communities behind in the conversation. And no, Peter, I don't have an answer for that yet, and I'm hoping the colleagues online will kind of give me ideas on how can I start those conversations and include these communities, take them into our journey of sustainable business and just life in general. Thanks.
Well, I'll let Kaveh please answer Kenewa. I think we'll close on your answer, Kaveh. So what are your thoughts on Kenewa's question around how to improve those partnerships and how to extend that collaborative hand?
I think, like any partnership, Peter, is about making sure that the value systems of your organization and your partner's organization is aligned. So, for example, in oil and gas, safety is one of the values of any oil and gas. And you look into your partners having that safety built into their value system also. Sustainability is the same thing also. So I think increasingly you want to kind of, the expectation is your partners are designing, bringing sustainability into the design of their product and services as well as their own operation.
Yes, thank you all. It could have gone on for much longer, but that is all how we have time for. And thank you for joining. This is Peter Stojanovic at the studio, and this is Sustainable Leadership for the Technology Function.